Welcome back to the Neo Marketing Podcast. I'm Pritchard, and this is Kyle Golden. And today we're going to talk about weaponized social media.
Welcome to the Golden Group Neo Marketing Podcast, a bi-weekly discussion of modern business communication.
Kyle, how are you, sir?
Fantastic. How are you today, Pritchard?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. I'm vertical.
Step one.
Step one.
Get out of bed. Step two, get some coffee.
Right, exactly. And some people say 90% of it's showing up, so here I am.
There
right?
you go.
This is, as the intelligence folks would say in the briefings to the military bosses I work for, this is not finally evaluated data.
Okay, so it's a little rough, is it?
It's very rough.
Okay.
Nascent ideas that have been rolling around in my head.
Well, let's
recently.
have at it.
So I'm gonna say it out loud. I'm gonna hope that you'll help me get it organized.
Okay.
But I think it's stuff that we need to continue to be talking about.
Okay, I'm down with that.
3 terms.
Okay.
That'll kind of set it up. And again, we're talking weaponized social media.
And folks, realize this. I have no idea what he's about to say. So
this
will get real interesting. 3 terms.
Really,
who knows? We'll see what happens.
This is really it. Okay.
We have not pre-planned this.
Call out culture.
Yeah.
Right?
Cancel culture.
Cancel
right?
culture.
Yes.
Is the second term.
Yes.
And then I heard recently the shouting and shaming culture.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
All
right.
3 related.
Boy, Twitter.
Absolutely.
Twitter, man. Twitter.
Social media.
It's on all
in general.
social media, but man, Twitter's the worst.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've talked an awful lot about how to handle social media in time of crisis.
Yep.
Right, and we've got some ideas there. This is kind of an intersection of all of those kind of ideas.
Cool.
The ideas about how to handle social media.
For sure.
We talked about the apology impulse.
Yes.
When to say I'm sorry.
One of our most listened to podcasts. So if you guys haven't heard it, the apology impulse. Just last month, December, right before the end of the year. Go check it out on iTunes and YouTube.
Yeah, total paradigm shift for me.
Yes,
after reading that book. And the intersection of corporate social activism.
Yeah.
So when does a corporation engage itself? There's a lot of research that says today, in particular, the younger generations are looking for a company to stand for something.
Absolutely.
Right. And this is new, and companies are still trying to figure out
it's new-ish.
how to manage it. New-ish.
It's actually been everyone's always wanted to work for a good company, good neighbor, if you will. It's just the speed and the attention and how it's presented is different.
Yeah. So the synapses got exploded. An article by Richard Levick, Levick, courtesy of my good friend Jim Lukashevsky.
You're not going to spell Lukashevsky,
No,
are you?
I could. E991.com. E99.com.
Okay.
Is his website. And he puts out a newsletter. And this week, the newsletter included Levick's article about corporate social activism and when organizations should engage and what they should do. Sure. And he had 4 tips.
Okay.
First was sacrifice. We're talking about Dick's Sporting Goods, Nike with Kaepernick.
Yeah.
I mean, they made decisions that cost them money, but they made decisions.
Potentially,
You stop selling guns and Dick's.
Yeah,
that cost them
was quite silly.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right?
Not only did they stop selling guns, they and they didn't even sell back the stock they had. I believe they destroyed them.
Yeah. Yes. So
that's a sacrifice. That's for sure.
That is a sacrifice, right? And Nike decided that they were going to basically. They didn't care about part of their audience that was upset with Kaepernick. They were looking for their advocates, their people, right? So sacrifice in terms of an organization. And I'll try and bring this into social media. Like I said, I'm thinking out loud right now, okay? The other thing, and this really does translate into handling crisis on social media. Okay. Do it, don't tell it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
Do it,
show, don't tell. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Words are hollow without actions.
And it's something that I've been thinking about for quite some time. Starbucks and Walmart in particular got called out, a decade ago? Starbucks for not buying.
Starbucks get called out all the time.
Well, sure. But I mean, the big incident I'm thinking about is that they weren't buying free market coffee.
Okay.
That they had cornered coffee market.
Yeah.
Walmart being criticized for not giving a livable wage, not providing insurance to their associates, those kinds of things, right?
And before that, and maybe 20 years ago, Walmart got a little bit of heat about not buying American.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then, being the disruptor, putting small businesses out of business.
Yeah.
And so the do it, don't tell it part of that is that they made changes based, in my opinion, based on that criticism.
Sure. That makes sense.
But they didn't tout it. I mean, Starbucks did eventually start saying that we're using free market coffee.
But you have to do it before you talk about it.
Exactly.
And then you have to, you can only tell what you did, not what we will do, what we could do, and you can't make it an over-exaggeration of what you actually executed on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the point that Levick was saying was it's not about bragging, it's not about marketing, it's not about advertising or promotion, it's about doing it.
Yes.
Okay? And then the third thing that Levick said was be transparent. And we've talked about transparency.
We love transparency
forever, right?
as much as possible.
Absolutely. And I think the example he used in his article was Lyft versus Uber.
Yeah, there is a big difference in the corporate philosophies between them. Yes.
Yep.
One of my favorite transparent models is Buffer. Buffer.com is a social media scheduling software.
Right.
We use it. I'm a big fan of it. And I've called them out I've called them out in a good way on social media before. I've shouted them out. I'll say that. But they publish their salaries and their annual report of income and costs. Right. They publish it all, and they're
not publicly traded either.
No,
they don't have to do
it voluntarily.
That. Absolutely.
Not only do they put it on the website, they email it to you. Like it isn't something they tucked away. They put it front and center, and it's part of their philosophy of how they do business and how they attract and retain potential customers is their transparency.
I remember now. I look back at the article. It's Chick-fil-A.
Oh, yeah.
Chick-fil-A has had an anti-LGBTQ, add some more initials, for a long time.
Right.
They are unapologetic because that is...
Up until last month.
Well...
They changed. And a lot of that goes back to, it was the CEO. It really wasn't... Corporation was the front face of it, but the CEO was the person doing the donations to the groups that were found to be objectionable and then held the hard line.
Right.
But they definitely did stick with. They didn't take the criticism and move with it. They stuck with who they were and what they were doing.
Who they were.
But that comes from the CEO down.
The CEO and the company founded on those Christian values of the founder, right? Yeah. And they've stuck with it. And I kind of went because they may have messed that up a little bit recently.
Right, yeah, they backtracked it recently a little bit, but I also, again, I think that goes back to changes at the top level, the C-suite, as opposed to just simply reacting to public pressure.
Right. Yeah.
It's okay for a company to change. You can't change you can't do a 180 on a dime simply because you get some blowback from the public.
You're going to get blowback.
It has to have
just
balance.
Count it.
You have to have balance, and you have to stay focused on who your client is.
Exactly, and for that, go back to the apology impulse and the prime minister examples, and one prime minister out of business because he apologized for something he didn't need to apologize. The other one actually gained because he called out a person and stuck with it.
Yeah,
it was true. Okay, and then the last one is courage and leadership, and that's where Lyft and Uber came in as the example. There was, and I'm trying to remember the exact thing that came up, but the travel ban. When President Trump announced the travel ban, Lyft immediately announced a $1 million donation to ACLU to fight that. A few months later, Uber cowered and announced that they would study the issue. So they weren't terribly courageous.
That goes back to action. Yeah, like you said, talk versus action. That was talk.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a reaction to their competitor and to the news cycle and seems just disingenuous.
A little bit. Yeah, absolutely. And they got in trouble for it. Other things that they've gotten in trouble for too, of course. But Levick was
wonder why those guys can't be profitable.
Right, really. Lovick was approaching this from a corporate social activism approach. I think those things apply too in this call-out culture, in this shout and shaming culture.
Right. You have call-out, you have cancel, you have scream and shout.
Shout, yeah.
They're variations of the same basic idea that people on social media have an opinion. Therefore, they think their opinion is valid and the only thing valid. Thus, gives them sort of the permission to be rude, be aggressive,
and it's anonymous,
and to try to hurt other people.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
There's a 99% of the activity that happens on social media would not happen face to face with someone.
Absolutely, and that's the point that I was going to make abstatively. So you made it for me. So I think those four things also apply in terms of those three terms.
Yes.
The state of weaponized media, social media today. I think be willing to sacrifice because you're not going to be able to please everybody.
Nope. And you shouldn't try.
Do it. Don't tell it.
That's right.
Be transparent. Be courageous.
Yes.
Right? I will add a couple other things that we've talked about before, and that is stay the course.
Yes. Consistency is the key.
And haters always come first.
That's right.
Right? We've talked about that.
They'll back off eventually. Then best case scenario, your defenders, your advocates.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so the second piece of that is feed your advocates so they can be advocates.
And the easiest way to feed them is to do it before you tell it. It goes back to see these absolutely collaborate with each other.
It all kind of comes
if you're approaching
together.
it in a authentic sense,
yep.
by doing the positives and staying away from the negatives that we've just discussed, it will work out that way.
It will.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely firmly convinced, and I still say that despite the immediacy, quote unquote, of social media, give yourself an hour to put it together.
Also, the speed issue goes back to if you say something with it, but immediately, 7 of us are unhappy about this. Oh, we'll stop doing that. Well, sometimes the person who is composing that social media post has no authority to do anything.
Exactly.
And so now you've said it. If you don't do it, you make things worse than saying nothing at all.
On the basis of 7 people. So
or bots. We all know bots are out there too. Those things happen.
Yep.
And
just evil people.
Yeah, just evil people and bored people and I like to make the joke about 13-year-old boys.
Right.
13-year-old boys they're hormonal and they're confused and they're aggressive and they don't know if they want to run or fight or do whatever.
Right, or run to mommy.
Yeah, right, exactly. But they love to stir it up online. They're the most ultimate trolls, and they get on the headsets on the video games and talk trash to each other, which is all fine and good. But then they do it on Twitter too.
Right.
And you got a pack of 13-year-olds telling your corporation what to do. That's a really backwards ass model.
Really bad.
So the people who want to call out, the people who think that they're canceling, and the people who are the yell and scream audience are not the people that you build long-term business relationship with anyway. So what's the point?
Right, exactly. And it brings, thank you for lead turning it, because it brings us right back to the apology impulse, right? And resisting the need to say, I'm sorry when you didn't do anything wrong.
Yes.
Okay, so there we go.
Save your sorry for when you have really screwed up. And of course, the second half, and this is how we talk about PR all the time, right? You tell them what happened. You tell them what's going on. You give them as much information as possible. You tell them what you will do to prevent it in the future.
Exactly. A key part.
A great example of that for local, the folks here in Oklahoma City. We had recently a shooting at a mall. And for those of you who don't
within a couple of weeks.
Right, but the first one, the police department, their PR people, the public information officer was fantastic about that process. Tell you what I know. I won't say anything I don't know. I'll let you know what the next update's going to be, and then what we will do to prevent this from happening again or keep you safe in the future. He went through that process, and it was a fluid situation. So every 15 minutes he came back and said the same thing. I don't know that yet. I will find out for you, but that was I don't know the answer. I'll find out. Or you're just going to have to wait on that for just the absolute unknowns. What we are doing to combat the situation or manage the situation now, and then what we'll do in the future. They did a fantastic job of that. It's a rarity for this type of thing to happen in Oklahoma City, so it was a big deal, and all the news stations went live with it.
Right.
And it was a mall, so it was a popular place, lots of people there. It seemed like everyone on Twitter knew someone who was there.
Right.
But the public information officer for the police department did an amazing job of telling as much as he could and being transparent.
Right.
Stating when he didn't know something
Right.
or would find out and come back with that.
Yep.
And then what are they doing right at that moment to secure the location, to help the people that were there, to make sure no one was in danger,
Yep.
and then get the statement so they could find the information to get the person, which they eventually caught, all that. He managed the communication process perfectly. And never, ever overstated, made assumptions, or answered a question he didn't know the answer to. And he specifically said, I do not know that answer.
And for me, the king of that was Rudy Giuliani on 9/11. Right? Exactly.
There's no bigger scenario to try to manage.
Right. There's a whole separate conversation about reducing uncertainty, not over reassuring. I think we'll save that for another time.
That sounds like it could easily be its own episode.
It could be,
sure.
Absolutely.
Maybe something we'll refresh up a little bit and get some examples for people.
So I just wanted to kind of get us thinking about this, because now we've got 3 different terms that all basically define weaponized social media. It's not going away. I don't think it's going to get better. I mean,
it's much like everyone says, political campaigns don't go negative. No one likes negative campaign ads, but they keep using them and they keep working. So people say they don't like it, but it works.
Yeah, I had interesting a sidebar, and then we'll wrap this up. But years ago, when I was at the public affairs officer at U.S. European Command, we had to come back to Washington once a quarter. We had some educational pieces of that with the Secretary of Defense public affairs person, and one of them was couldn't have been 24 years old, but he was the strategist for one of the campaigns.
Okay.
And he drew a Venn diagram, basically 2 big circles with a little overlap in the center.
Right.
And he said on the left side are people that are going to vote for candidate A. On the right, candidate B.
43% both sides, right?
In the middle is the undecided. But on the edges of that are people leaning in one direction or another. So it's really a very small percentage in the middle of truly undecided voters. And the thing that shocked the hell out of me was the cost to get that small percentage was so prohibitive that instead of trying to get them to support you, they worked on making sure that person didn't support their candidate.
Right, you had to tear down the other one.
Which, I mean, and now it's all negative stuff, right? Because of that particular factor. So anyway, a sidebar. So wrapping it up, it's a really interesting environment today.
It's true. And actually, and this is another one of those bonus things where Pitch doesn't know what I'm about to say. Because
I gave him a little bonus there.
It's true, but I just discovered this yesterday, so I want to get your take on it. And it just feeds right into what you were just saying. This is how this show happens, folks. We're on the fly. We don't plan this. So Twitter has rolled out a new option if you want to report a tweet. And it used to be, it was spam or pornography, or it was being abusive, or someone expressing a willingness to hurt themselves. Those were things that you could get a tweet banned or a tweeter in trouble, an account in trouble.
Right.
Now they've added it is discussing information negative to a political campaign.
Okay.
Horrible idea. Dude. Terrible. Twitter. I'm watching my tongue here because I'm about to curse you out. Twitter, this is a worst idea you've come up with, and you guys come up with some stupid-ass ideas. And there's a reason you're not profitable either. I could fix Twitter in 10 minutes if they would let me, but Jack is a jackass. Yeah. So Twitter has added this, which is not going to be anything but abused.
Well, Twitter's being abused when you get right to it. I mean, where is, and we've talked about this before, where is civility in our society?
Right, it's gone.
When did we stop learning how to have an argument without being insulting, damaging, tearing other
disagree
people
without
down?
being disagreeable,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
So now trolls and people's trying to stir shit, or people that literally know what they're saying is not factual, but their opinion is so strong.
Right.
They say these things about politics online and all the social media platforms. Do you think people who are that willing to sort of to stir shit are also going to go, well, I'm not going to turn in my opponent in this argument as being politically inaccurate? Right. Yes, they are. That's what I mean by they're going to use that option.
They weaponized it.
They're going to try to take everyone who disagrees with them,
right.
not just screw you, pal, or I'm going to block you, I'm going to listen to you, but I don't want you to have the ability to say the thing I disagree with, whether it's factual or not.
Well, for me, that's just an extension of what we've been doing for a long time, and that is choosing the information that aligns with the way we think and ignoring everything else. That's no way to base your decisions.
But it's also why this is the worst decision Twitter has made so far, is wading into the political arguments with truth, whether it's factual or not.
Right.
It's a political argument. It's probably not going to be factual. It's very emotional, and there's a ton of opinion. 99% of it's going to be opinion.
And that's what they're doing, censoring opinion.
And then it gets to a point when things are so unfactual. I say the president is an alien from Mars. That's so unfactual. It's not believable anyways. You should let people say that because they look like idiots when they express that kind of stuff.
Right.
As opposed to, I need a button to block because that's not accurate. You can't prove he's from Mars.
Right.
True, but people have opinions that you should be able to, as a discerning individual, and if you're not discerning enough because you're not old enough or experienced enough, you should be on Twitter anyways. Parents, don't let your preteens on Twitter. Honestly, unless they're 18, and I'm not a parent, so forget my parenting advice.
So back to the original stream.
There it is.
This is a great example of weaponized social media.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
People are going to take what was intended, I'm sure, in good nature. I'm sure the Twitter folks thought that they were doing a good thing.
Right?
Yes, let's eliminate unfactual things online. Yeah, sure, that's a good idea. Unintended consequences is people will use it as a weapon, the way they've weaponized social media as a whole.
Exactly. So, thoughts for the day, and we'd love to hear your feedback. Like, share, subscribe. Shoot us comments. I mean, we are open for civil discussion for sure.
We'll be nice to you.
Absolutely.
We might completely disagree with you, but we'll be nice about it.
Yeah, and that's okay. We can agree to disagree. Anyway, until next time, this is Pritch saying ciao.
Good luck.